Chapter 10 Eternity in a Cave. Jack woke up. He couldn't see. He touched his face to make sure nothing was covering his eyes. It stung by his very touch. He let out a tooth-sucking sound at the pain. His hands started to feel about, trying to understand his surroundings. He felt his arm and reeled back in surprise. "Who is this?" He waited for them to answer, but they said nothing. "Hello? Answer me!" His demands were met with silence. Jack reached and touched them again. They didn't react to his touch. "You must be asleep. Are you Soon or Fobris?" He said that to himself more than to the unconscious mystic he grasped at. His hands felt further down their frame. As he reached the abdomen, it became wet and sticky. Then suddenly, he felt the same rocky floor his foot touched. His mind couldn't wrap around the absurdity of it. He kept touching from the ground to the sudden abrupt ending of a person where their middle should be. Then he realized, perhaps slower than someone should, that this was half a person, and they couldn't possibly be alive. He jerked his hands back, scrambling back himself at the realization of what lay before him. "Is that... Did I kill one of them? No!" Jack's mind retreated, refusing to accept that he may have been responsible for one of his comrades dying. He continued to back up until he bumped into rock, and then he curled into a ball in what could only have been a corner. If his mind were clearer, he would have questioned how there could be a corner where he bawled. Tears streamed down his face. Two of his hands covered his face, while the other two held his knees close to his chest. His saddened magic caused the place to curl to form into his shape. He was too distracted to hear the footsteps. Only when someone stood over him did he notice. "Hello? Who's there? Elle, is that you?" Only a huff sound was heard. Jack let go of his face and took hold of a piece of Krana. "Elle, you found me. I can't see. Please tell me it's dark and I haven't gone blind." Again, there was only a huff sound. He nodded his understanding. "Sorry, I forgot you can't talk in beast form. You brought me food. Thank you, Elle. I killed Soon or Fobris. You you must go and find the other one. I'm so sorry. This pain on my face tells me I'm blind." Another huff sound, followed by footsteps as they walked away. Jack made himself feel angry, then cooked the krana. In between bites, he talked to himself. "I have the power to heal myself, but I don't know how. Or maybe I do. It's dangerous to try. I don't have any other options." Jack struggled for hours trying to feel his surroundings. The ground and walls were rocky. He heard rain in the distance, but felt none of it touch him. When the footfalls were heard approaching, he felt relief to not be alone. "Thank you for staying with me, Elle. I'm guessing you couldn't find anyone?" In response, he heard Elle place something on the ground and push it to him. A rolling sound was heard, like glass moving. It bumped into Jack. He felt the object. It was a book. You brought me one of our books? Not a total loss, at least." Jack started to cry, but made himself stop. He made himself sit cross-legged to focus. Then the magic from the orb came to him. Like every time, reading from this magic was draining. He sat with his back against the wall, trying to overcome the fatigue. The book was not one of those Elle had taken from the great library, but was instead one about time weaving. "Elle, I didn't know you obtained one on time weaving. That's amazing. When I've rested, if I'm still lacking the understanding, focus, and confidence to heal myself, please hand me another." The footsteps approached him, and he felt the book lift from him, and they walked away to the side of the room. Then they returned and placed another book on Jack's lap. "I'm too exhausted to read right now," Jack said. A leg kicked Jack, not painfully, just an insisting kick in protest. "Okay, fine, I'll read it now." An agreeable huff was heard. Jack clutched the orb and forced himself to focus through the haze. He had never read two of these in a row. The very thought of it exhausted him. The knowledge came to him. Again, it was not one of the books he expected. Instead, it was one on summoning, basics specifically. When he finished absorbing the information, his head cocked in confusion, and he made himself face the direction Elle must have been. "How did you get these?" "They're not the ones you took from the library, Elle. I don't understand." The footsteps approached him. The book on summoning was taken. Then they stepped back to the wall again. Without waiting, they walked back to Jack, and another book was placed on his lap. Jack attempted to grab Elle, but they moved back too fast for him to seize. "Hell, I can't read the third one. My brain is fried. It's too much." Their foot stamped on the ground hard and loud. "No, it's too much." They slammed their foot down a second time. "Elle, you are starting to make me worry. My head hurts from this. I shouldn't read another one, but should rest before I try." A third slam, but this one was so demanding that Jack actually cringed. "Okay, fine, I'll read it. But that's it for now." Felt the veins on his head pulsate with stress. He knew that he couldn't keep doing this, and a headache that made itself all the more known was in the back of his head. It was bearable, but slowly increased in pain the more he made himself read. He read anyway. The knowledge came to him, but at the price of his headache doubling in an unbearable amount. This book was familiar. He actually recognized it. It was the very first book he ever touched, the one that he only read half of due to someone else reading it at the time. Even through the pain, Jack knew it was not Elle that forced him to read book after book. When the knowledge finished funneling into him, he dropped the orb. "Sigh?" he asked. The footsteps were heard walking away. Jack wanted to say more. He was overcome by confusion, exhaustion, and pain. He felt the world spin around him. 3 books in a row were too much. He felt the world turn upside down, and then his body doubled over, his head hitting the ground and conscious escaping him. The footsteps were too distant to hear any more, and Jack knew that he was alone. Blackness overtook him. When he woke up, he said nothing. He could hear the rain outside padding on the grass, bushes, and trees. He took as long as he needed to feel around and fully understand his surroundings. It was not a built structure. Everything was rocky. The sound of the rain, yet the dryness of his location, was enough to deduce that he was in a cave. He discovered a pool of water and a large pile of krana next to that. Finally, he discovered the bookshelf. Dozens of books occupied the shelves. So many. If that really was Sai, why would he help me like this? He should have killed me. He won't get the second chance. He picked up some krana, focused on any of the thousands of things that have happened recently to make himself angry, cooked the krana, ate it, and then snatched a book. After he read it, he took another, and then risked a third. It was painful, but expected. He reached for a fourth, but pulled his hand back and thought better of it. Blood trickled out of his nose. The wet sensation surprised him. He wiped it from his face, then sat down to focus on what he just learned. When the pain subsided, he continued to read. With no way to measure time, Jack was clueless as to how long he has been in this cavern. Eat, drink, read, rest, and repeat, over and over. He toyed with the monotonous repetition. He hated every second of this. On occasion, his impatience forced him to heal the headaches in order to read all the sooner. This was dangerous, and he knew it. Not only was there the obvious danger of a miscalculation and making his pain go from a headache to a serious injury, but also the continuous healing effect was in his brain equal to constantly putting duct tape on a mechanical component instead of properly repairing it. His quick fix would inevitably collapse upon him and lead to a serious complication. On and on he continued. He started to heal his headache, but made himself stop. "No, I can't keep doing that." This was arguably the wisest decision he had ever made. His decision to slow down was mostly due to one of the books describing healers that pushed themselves in a similar manner. They would eventually collapse and become bedridden for months with no way to heal themselves beyond the natural methods of their body repairing itself. With such ample time on his side, Jack invented a few solitary games. He repressed the thought on how a solo game is sad. While he made up games out of boredom, and since his forms of magic were the current focus of study, his mind subconsciously made them related to his learning. The time-weaving game, hum a tune, repeat the tune while moving to it, double the speed with every repetition. He kept raising his high score. His final speed was 32 times faster than normal speed. The summoning game, bring out the beast and make it move differently than himself. He could command it without forcing every single movement. For the game, he would have the beast charge him and he would jump out of the way. This game was easy since he commanded its every movement. However, the more he played this game, the harder it became, because the less he needed to concentrate on his individual movements. To his surprise, the beast actually hit him. For his elementalist game, he conjured fireballs and juggled them. He lost when he either didn't catch a fireball or a fireball caught him. Healing proved to be no fun at all. He came up with a few number games, but those produced no joy whatsoever. Boredom snared him. While the exit to this cave was open and inviting, Jack needed his sight before he could leave this place. He almost understood precisely how to heal his vision. Book after book he read. He hated this place, and his lamentation grew with every fried krana. Book and sip of water, eat, drink, rest, and read. He picked up the final book and glared at it with blind eyes. With a heavy sigh, he forced the knowledge into his brain. His blind eyes opened. He lifted the book above his head, and then threw it as hard as he could. The shatter of glass against the cave wall satisfied his every fiber. He took another book and threw it to another place in the cave. Jack did not restrain himself. All four hands entered a movement. His skin turned blue from the harmony of his lower hands clutching a book, handing it to his upper hands, and then launching it across the room. Smashed glass cracked in slow motion to him. It must have taken him less than 1 second to fully demolish the collection throughout the cavern. To him, though, it was the most cherished eternity. Time moved slowly for him, and it was easy to command. From his study combined with the time-weaving game, he was able to force time to compress to the point where he threw one orb, sped himself all the more, snatched up another orb, and launched it into the first orb, making them smash in the air. His glee verbalized into a laughing madness. Never in his life was he so happy to revel in mindless destruction. While in this smash and dance, he set the last orb on fire, still angry at the cave. He had never performed two different magics at the same time before and this threw him off. He was stopped, amazed at the revelation. How did I not realize that magic could be combined and done together? No book mentions such a possibility. He shook his head. Of course, no book would mention that. I'm the only one that can do more than one magic. Every inch of the cave was covered in broken glass. At no moment did he have even an ounce of regret. With nothing left for him, he focused on the one thing he needed to do. Jack covered his head with all four hands. His upper hands touched his eyelids. He knew the mathematical formulae, but needed to fully understand his injury. One book explained how healers can probe another to understand the complexities of any injury. It made no mention of how to do it to oneself, or if this process could worsen his problem. His hands glowed and a wave of magic, healing magic, pulsated out through his head and then returned. It was successful and painless. He identified his eyes in detail, and to prepare the algorithm, he gave each portion of his eye a number. Conjunctiva, cornea, pupil, lens, choroid, retina, macula, sclera, optic disc, virtuous body, anterior chamber, ciliary body, iris, and optic nerve. All these he assigned a number. He repeated the names of each with their corresponding number 3 times in order to cement them into memory. Next, Jack identified the damaged portion. It was the optic nerves in both eyes. They were burned, but intact. If they were disintegrated or severed, the healing process would be infinitely more difficult. He felt fortunate that the damage was limited to a burn on the nerves. Isolating the nerves as a unique number, Jack created the final algorithm, x minus 75 divided by xm plus, in parentheses, x minus 73x close parentheses x equals what? He imagined the numbers moving around in order to simplify the equation. As he did so, his hands glowed a second time. The healing magic began exactly as he envisioned it. He felt his eyes healing. At first he saw light as a dull white all around him. When the math neared completion, shapes formed, followed by colors. At the completion, the world came into focus. Jack had no desire to look at his prison. He forced himself to close his eyes without taking in any details. The rain continued to drizzle outside. Jack followed the sound of water touching the ground. He knew he was outside when he felt the rain on his face. He opened his eyes and took in the world. Trees, mountains, beauty all around him. The sight was impressive. He saw the darkling territory and knew that its drooping, leafless trees and dead ground made the place identifiable. The mountains to his left and right, with their tremendous size, they were walls between the darklings and the elementalists. The rain stopped almost as like it was for him, signaling the end of his darkness. He held out one of his hands, and the final rain dropped down into his palm. He looked at it and marveled at the tiny ocean in his hand. He brought it close to his eyes and just stared at it. The water swirled in his palm, then a gust of wind blew it away. Jack looked at the water swirl and dissipate into the air. His skin turned red, and the return of his sight, along with the wonder before him, his body lifted from the ground. Amazing, he commented, and then gently lowered back to the ground. One day I will soar through the sky, but that day is not today. End of chapter 10.